I'm pretty sure dance is the most effective way I communicate. I spend all this time talking, um, but if I'm able to dance with someone, particularly contact improv, where you're giving your weight to someone, you're taking their weight, and it's like the best conversation, and it's almost void of the English language. It's void of this like frontal cortex, this verbal center of existence. It feels like, I guess, deeper than that, or just a little more even rudimentary or fundamental. Just giving weight, taking weight, moving, adapting. Because you have all the dynamics of a conversation built into contact improv in terms of, who's speaking, who's listening, and then the push pull of that. But it's just more clear to me. In conversation, it can be like a subtle forms of domination or controlling the amount of airspace. I think it's quite important for any relationship that you're kind of in balance with speaking and listening. And this doesn't mean that it's 50-50. There are some relationships that I have that a balance feels like I'm listening 80% of the time, 70% of the time, and only speaking very little. And there's some relationships where that's the opposite, where the balance for me, from my perspective, feels like speaking more. And there's no like set ratio, and that's not the point. The point is the push-pull that happens in conversation can be subtle, and a lot of times if I feel like that balance isn't there, I feel like I'm not able to speak or be heard, then the relationship kind of falters. In contact improv, it's just so much more clear, that push-pull. It's not subtle, and therefore there's like no resentment. Because resentment might be it's the slow and steady decay of relationships. And it usually starts as a pebble in your shoe. It starts off as something really small, but over time degrades even more than like even a acute trauma, relationship-wise. And resentment can be built with with communication or lack thereof. Communication being key to any relationship is not a new idea or concept, but a lot of the fights that I've gotten into are over not feeling heard or understood, and a good barometer for those is the amount of time I'm able to speak versus how much I'm able to listen in the given relationship. So when I drop the verbiage, the verbal, and I can just kind of get into the physical or the primal kind of centers of my body or existence, like, it's easy to know when someone wants to be heard more. You'll feel their weight, you'll feel their pressure push against you. And a lot of times I just am able to receive that or roll it, deflect it, and then the dance goes on. But there is something about the communication of dance that just seems easy peasy. And it seems to deepen relationships quicker than anything else. And something about contact improv being like a cooperative game of like enjoyment very little competition present. That cooperation lends itself to play, and it just helps me get deeper into relationships. It seems to be the best tool. And I don't know how to initiate that all the time because it's very personal. Contact improv is like extremely intimate, and I don't mean sexual. It can be, but I do mean intimate, like bodies on bodies, touch on touch through touch. So initiating it isn't always easy. It's amazing how many people are adverse to touch and play and the traumas that they carry around that don't allow them to, play, to be intimate in the form of touch, not just sexuality. But last night, how did it spring up? Oh, well, it helped that the people at the party, a portion of them had experience with contact improv. So the barrier of entry was much lower. And I think it started with the people that were practiced in the discipline of contact improv. Yeah, it did. I think we were talking, we played some games, some improv games, some games to make each other laugh. We played the one where you each run around and said a word to build a story. And it was actually funny. Sometimes that game kind of goes nowhere. We just create really simple sentences that have no juice, but the amount of wordplay and puns and quick-wittedness that was available yesterday, it was actually a really funny game, and that could have lent itself to what followed. I'm sure it did, which was, we were able to play kind of in this verbal space. And then how did it happen? Yeah, we started dancing through contact, and then all of a sudden another person came in, then another, and then another. And next thing you know, everyone at the party was experiencing contact improv for the first time or for the umpteenth time. And we're all playing together and touching each other and sweating, and the ability to do that, and it never crossed the sexual boundary for me. And I don't know, I guess I can't speak for anyone else, but it just felt really respectful and playful and pure in the sense of like a child would play. And the next thing you know, as soon as that barrier of physical touch was crossed, where everyone was pretty much able to share their weight or hold the weight of another person, or almost every person in the room at some point, because I think someone who was kind of later to the game, they said everyone looked like a pot of boiling noodles. Because that's what contact improv can look like, especially when you're getting into trios and quartets, and it's 3 people, 4 people, 5 plus playing together. It's kind of everyone's intermeshing, changing levels, high to low, and I guess it looks like a pot of boiling noodles. But after the dance kind of simmered down, if you will, I just remember sitting and, again, being at that spot of complete peace, not needing anything, so satisfied. And it's the kind of satisfaction that I still even feel today. I feel like a lot of the healing that happened last night through community was because we were able to kind of dance, touch each other, and it be completely appropriate. And there's an interesting thing I noticed that happens when I do feel satisfied, or I feel at peace. The tone of my voice seems to change. And I've noticed that I have the habit or the propensity to hold tension to hold like energy up high, and when I am doing that, my voice is higher, and people like are actually less inclined to listen because there's a little bit of tension in my voice. There's a little bit of almost panic, just like holding on, or like insecurity, or anything that can come up in a group dynamic. And my tension raises, my voice gets higher. But when I'm fully satisfied, what I've been doing is in my mind picturing that I'm dropping my energy back into my belly. Your chi is supposed to be stored in your belly. That's like your fuel tank. And that's the place where it can handle the most energy. It can handle the most chi. So basically what I feel like is I let my chi get kind of high when I get stressed in any way. My voice is like a nice indicator of that, when I can become aware of how my voice sounds. And it'll get a little higher. Maybe I'll speak a little bit faster. And that's okay, but what I find is actually better for myself, and what seems to be more comfortable for other people and their ability to listen to me is if I can sink that chi, that sensation, back down into my belly, and my voice gets a little deeper, a little bit richer with this constant mindfulness practice of like sinking my chi down. And this is important to me because a lot of the illness that I carried last year with the cancer was neck, chest. It was where I keep that tension, coincidentally or not, where I keep tension when I'm stressed or insecure, is where I actually had my sickness. So I'm hoping that this new mindfulness, this new awareness of realizing where the tension is and then sinking it back into my power center, my stomach, will help keep me healthy. And even if it doesn't, it's improving the quality of my life in the moment, through calmness and like comfort, peace, and acceptance. And I know I say this every time, but there's just a momentum. As soon as I can like increase the peace with myself, then good things happen. Then I'm a magnet for like more peace. And the next thing you know, I'm saying like prayers intuitively, out loud, like from the heart. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the power of prayer. I'm feeling the power of the elements, like fire, and the moon was amazing last night. I didn't even want to sleep. I was enjoying life so much that everyone left. It's 3 a.m, and like I wanted to sit down by a window and just bask in the moonlight. And I did that until my body started telling me to like go lay down, pretty much. I don't know how long, maybe a half hour, maybe plus, but just able to sit in the moonlight, not even trying to meditate hard, but just like sitting. And it just felt like a really powerful time. It felt like such a healing night. After the dancing occurred, then all of a sudden the musical instruments started to get brought out, and it all felt just sort of organic. Nothing seemed forced. I kind of forced the initial ceremony of lighting the leaves on fire. To me, it was a beautiful night, really warm, but some people were a little bit cold, and getting them to go outside was a little bit of effort, but it seemed to be worth it. From my perspective, because I feel like just bringing that small amount of ceremony, it really lent the rest of the night to kind of just unfold organically with a little bit of gratitude comes to mind, but it's like ease and like divinity, so I like just the smallest amount of structure, the smallest amount of ceremony. We didn't have to like all be quiet while we lit the fire and pass around a specific stick and sing certain songs, and it was just easy, you know. I spoke my piece. People could talk if they want, you know, if they were in conversation. Just me being able to say it out loud to whoever wanted to listen was good enough. And then the fire was so beautiful and like majestic. I made a huge pile of leaves, so it really lit up. And watching leaves burn is like a particular kind of beauty because you'll get the flames, but you'll also get like a deep glow ember, like almost like a coal fire, like in the center. And the musical instruments after dancing got taken out, and it just seemed like my ability to share song has increased tremendously just this past year. And a lot of that is due to kind of a particular ceremony. There's a Brazilian musician that he does medicine work in Brazil. He's a master musician. I can't speak highly enough about this man and how he carries himself and the music that he shares and the community that he's helped co-create, Carioca Freitas, and his healing center, Saranda, in Brazil. And the medicine and the music that he shares, the type of ceremony that he shares is in the light. So there seems to be like a differentiation. There's so many types of ceremony, but there's Peruvian style ceremonies, which are in the dark, very, very dark, very solo journey, very simple music, simple, like almost like there's an instrument that's like a pile of leaves, pretty much, and they're overlapped, and when you shake them, it goes, and the shaman go, or they'll do their Icaros, their shaman songs, but the music's very simple. So this is not like that. This is actually a ceremony that's done in the light, so you can actually see everyone, and you're given books that have songs in them. There's 4 books. There's probably more than 4, but there's and we'll do like a book a night, and there's like 100 songs in each book, and we'll sing maybe 30 of them, 40 of them, maybe less, maybe more, in a given night. And it's participatory. So the Peruvian style ayahuasca ceremonies, in the dark, you're kind of sitting and receiving and kind of going through your own internal journey. Well, this ceremony, you're reading, there's an action like that you could do in your sober waking life, and you're singing these songs with a huge group. And that participation element for me really freed me up. It really empowered me to start to find my voice and find my song. And I've been practicing really ever since. I've been playing the guitar now for 6 months, and you know, there's still so much to learn and so much to grow in guitar, but the amount that I've come has been great for me and really validating, and I can even share songs and people will even give me encouragement. Like, I mean, they're my friends, and but they don't have to be as encouraging as they've been when I've shared certain music, and it's easy to keep going. And my point is that I can kind of I can share music more unabashed than I had previous, where it was like kind of a really big struggle for me to sing. It felt very vulnerable. I felt very naked singing. Now I'm convinced if you can speak, you can sing. It's really available to everyone. I think a lot of the issues people have singing is they try to sound good to others, to certain, you know, they try to sound a certain way instead of kind of listening to what they're able to, the sounds they're able to make, and like carrying that and riding that wave. and sometimes you try to do a trick and I try to like sing higher and I can catch it. And sometimes if, I fall off the board in this surfing music metaphor. But really, if you can speak, you can sing. And if you want to sing, I can't recommend it enough. Start by yourself. And really start singing without other music too. Like if you think you sing a song really well, that you listen to all the time and you sing along with it, maybe just try singing it without the music. Maybe have the lyrics, or if you know the lyrics, great. Just sing. No one has to be around, of course, but you'll learn a lot about your own voice and your own limitations and your range, your particular range, and where to go from there when you start singing without music. Because I think there can be kind of a delusion when I'm singing along to Leon LaHavis and or Adele, and I feel like, wow, I'm really crushing it, and then I'll turn off their music and just try to sing it myself. And I like my voice. Some days I like it, and I'm not gonna bash myself, but it's sometimes not as good as I think I am, and I don't. So singing without the assistance, kind of singing on my own, and finishing the song, not just stopping when I stumble, but keeping on going till the song is through. My music teacher says, like, once you're in the boat, be in the boat, like, see it through. And you can even record yourself singing and then listen to it back. And that'll give you some real insight as to what you're sounding like and then where to go from there. So I've been kind of like proud of myself, I guess, that I'm now able to share a song just a little bit easier, without trying too hard. And especially when other people are playing music, I'll grab a drum and try to accompany them, contribute to the song that they're leading. Not overpower them, but not be too shy either, but to stay in the groove, to stay in the rhythm. And with the drum, like, I think about being a heartbeat for the song, so that maybe someone with the strings can go off and fly and move around and kind of paint on top of the bass, which is the drum, the heartbeat, which is the drum. And just so much joy in music, so much joy in sharing the music and being a part of song in community. As many times as I can be in a group of people that are willing to dance, particularly contact and make contact with each other, and sing and to share their song. And I like contact before singing for some reason. The contact improv, or just making contact with each other, like, builds a trust, so that the singing maybe is a little bit easier, which can feel very vulnerable and alone, and like you're kind of putting yourself out there. With the movement, there's just more room for play and more room for error, and like kind of falling and stumbling around without feeling judged. Where when I was new to singing, the fear of judgment was so real that it would be really hard to share my voice and my song. So we played games, we danced, we sang, and then I think we just talked the rest of the night until it was time for everyone to go. And yeah, it was hard to say goodbye. It was like, I knew it was a good night because it was hard to see everyone go, and like, but it was easy to share my love, like to even say words of love, and to man, just such a good night. I wish this kind of on everyone, to have people that they can dance and sing with. It's corny and maybe a little bit cliche, but it's just such a simple power that maybe we've been carrying for thousands and thousands of years before we'd be able to entertain ourselves through football and TV shows and the internet. We've had song and dance, and it doesn't really make sense because, like, there's no direct evolutionary advantage to singing and dancing. Now, I mean, people will think like, yeah, well, for mating, attracting mates, that's a reason. But there's just something, like, it reminds me of divinity, like that which transcends just the physical existence. I'm like reaffirmed in like faith and spirit, if you will, through music. Music is pretty much is the closest thing to religion that I practice, and I pray, but there's just not a specific God that I pray to. There's just not a specific guidebook that I follow. I kind of like them all, or I like parts of them all, and I think they all can get you there, all the religions, and music's interlaced in all of them, toning, sound, and that's because humans talk, but music is just special, and many people know this. I think many people can relate to music being their religion or their practice, their religious practice. And I'd say I would add dance to that, because even dance without music, which I love very much, it's kind of like identifying the rhythm that lives within, or the rhythm that I'm working with, and then combining that maybe with someone else's rhythm, and then seeing what song we create, in silence. Best medicine, maybe. And the foundation of music is, singing and making music. Like, maybe it could be said as breath too. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's if I want to deny like the spiritual, metaphysical, or the unseen, unprovable like responses to music. And I want to be like materialistic, and which there's a place for. It helps me by being materialistic or overly, or kind of denying the metaphysical. It's grounding. It grounds my beliefs a little bit, and I think for my beliefs to be solidified, they need to be grounded so that they can, a tree grows its roots down so that it can grow up. Yeah, it's simple. And if I want to be materialistic about music, I could say that the act of singing is really breath control, and the breath control creates a physiological response that brings me a sense of peace. So it's known that breaths per minute, if you're down at like 6 to 10 breaths per minute, you're activating a different part of your brain. Don't know what it's called. I know that, so when your breaths get up to about 20 plus per minute, you're in your prefrontal cortex, the logic brain, the problem-solving, critical thinking brain. And so singing, this is part of the reason monks chant. They chant, which can reduce their breaths down to 1 per minute, 2 per minute, very low. And therefore they're kind of activating, like maybe it's the parasympathetic nervous system that just allows that deep relaxation where you can kind of figure out your life and what it means to you. Again, denying the spiritual aspect of it and just focusing on the physiological, practical. So maybe it's all about breath control. But then now we like layering in just another. So we went physical, but there's definitely an emotional element, right? Music has unlocked emotion more consistently than any other practice. And, deep feelings of emotion and serotonin can be associated with divinity and feelings of connectedness and validation and joy, peace. So music unlocks that emotional level too, which again, keep it physical, could be a chemical reaction. But it's kind of trippy to think that sound waves by themselves, taken in, there is a processing. Like I take in sound and I process it, and depending on how I process it, could elicit a strong emotional response that leaves me feeling calm, clear, collect. And then the practice of it is just rewarding because like I can feel like I'm growing. As I sing songs over and over again, I get better at singing them, and it becomes easier to share, for example, and perform. And I can even start to make the songs my own after singing them maybe hundreds of times, 1,000 times. So I can also get that sense of purpose and growth through music. But that's not specific to music. It's just another way that the practice of music enriches my life and is kind of like my religion. And then it just gets deeper and deeper. Like then the metaphysics of music. There's all sorts of sound therapy. Certain sounds destroying different diseases or promoting certain healths within the body, on metaphysical levels, the unprovable levels. But to me talking to me, it's provable. Like what music has done for me, it will remain the centerpiece of my life, even if I lose my voice or whatever terrible thing can happen. I will still find a way to share, create music, as long as I'm alive. And maybe even beyond. Maybe, music is closer to the next reality. Maybe music is like a portal to, or like a little peek hole to what's next. Maybe it's closer aligned with the reality that's next, which might be less physical and closer to sound waves. Of course, this is highly speculative, and I'm just kind of riffing, but it's very important to me, and good medicine. Well, I think that might be a good place to stop. It was really nice to just kind of share and integrate the goodness of community and song and dance from last night. And I hope this helps, and I encourage anyone to kind of go find their dance class. Go find there's tons of dances that are unifying, that involve much less physical contact, and that can be just as rewarding. I seem to crave that contact. It's like the best way for me to dance and express myself and communicate, like I said before. Like jiu-jitsu is very much that communication too. But there's like, find your dance too. There's 1.5 million styles that use the movements of the human body in all sorts of ways. And start to find, a singing song. A friend, Josh, recommended yesterday, because I was asking if anyone knows any ways to train the voice, and some things I can do daily to, I guess, grow or improve my singing voice. And a few came up. Yeah, maybe I'll share those before leaving. But Josh said, even just oming, aum. And the thing about about oming is, it's a simple sound. Aum. It kind of uses all the parts of your mouth, and you can change the pitch if you wanted to play with pitch too. So, aum. It doesn't sound too lovely, but I was trying to show that like that siren-y sound. That's an exercise in and of itself, so you can kind of interlace the ohm with the siren-y. Another simple technique was rolling out your lips. And now you can combine that with and none of these sound too beautiful. The idea of this exercise isn't to make a beautiful sounding song, but more to explore my own voice so that when I'm ready to create a beautiful song, I know where my range is, and I've kind of strengthened those muscles along the range. So we have oming, which is aum, the siren-y, which is changing pitch high to low. We have the rolling of your lips, the combination of those three elements, or two of them. And then another simple one was yawning. Like 6 times, yawning. Just kind of as like maybe that's how you start your vocal practice. So yawning. And the last one was you put your hand on your diaphragm, was learning how to use my diaphragm. And how it was described to me is the most gentle cough in the world. And the hand is just a visual, which I don't know if you can see, but it allows me to feel that I'm coughing and kind of engaging my diaphragm. So these 4 simple exercises are just ways to start exploring your voice, and maybe a daily practice to start singing. And the music, I might never share. I would love to share an album, create an album that's worthy of sharing, and that would be great, but it's not about that at all. My music practice is mostly personal. And like I was talking about earlier, there's such a reward to being able to share it with community, but to start, I needed to develop my own personal practice and get just confident singing by myself, singing without other music playing, so that I can truly hear myself and play with my vocal ranges, doing some of these exercises daily, practicing, singing songs hundreds of times over and over again, so that now I can share them with other people. But my point is, a music practice, your prayer practice, can be hyper personal, and you never have to share it with anyone. And maybe this encourages you to start and not maybe, think you have to get somewhere. Because even if today's my last day, if I get to sing some songs, that's how I'd want to spend it anyway, even if no one else heard. Oh, so good. Thanks if you're watching this and you came over yesterday. Man, just thank you so much. The fact that anyone leaves their house is amazing, but the fact that anyone would, drive an hour plus to come and, allow me to host them and serve them and share their time with me is something that I won't take for granted. I'm very grateful for. So I hope I'm getting that point across clearly, and it feels authentic to you as it feels for me. Yeah. And if you're just watching, and you weren't over yesterday, thank you so much for watching. I hope this is good for you as well. And I hope you find your community. I hope you find your voice, your song, and your dance. Much love, and I will see you next time. This is Niko, and this is the Goodwind.